Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to the Steel Curtain Network Steelers List. My name is Bryan Davis. I am here with the triumphant trio, well, the duo that make up the trio, Dave Schofield and Jeff Hartman. Gentlemen, hello.
What's up?
Howdy, sir.
All right, so you're wondering why I gathered you all here. It is plain and simple. It's the off season, and something you know that I love to do is talk about my favorite things, talk about memories, and talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because it's one thing that as we're waiting for Steelers news, it's always fun to wax poetically about the past, and we're going to do it with a series of shows that we call the SCN Steelers List. Today, we are going to talk about one of our favorite things, Steeler pass catchers, not just pass catchers, but those that had the W and the R attached to them, those wide receivers. Now, this is not the list of the best of all time, because you could just go ahead and look up stats. So we are going to compile lists, the three of us together, our separate list, and then in the second half of the show, we're going to go ahead and see what the consensus is. So, gentlemen, are you ready to go for the Steelers list?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Jeff, we are going to start with you. Could you go ahead and give us your list from 5 to 1?
So do you want like an explanation with each one or just rattle them off?
Rattle them off and then let us know what you think.
All right. So I have number 5. I have Antoine Randall L. All right. Number 4, Juju Smith-Schuster. Number 3, Stantonio Holmes. Number 2, Antonio Brown. And number 86, Hines Ward out of Georgia. So do you guys want an explanation now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
All
go
right.
ahead.
So the reason I went with Randall L is he provided a lot of great memories. And by the way, for those who are like, where's Swan? Where's Stallworth? I didn't see them play. I could have put Yancey Thigpen on, but I went for Juju Smith-Schuster instead. Louis Lips, it was still kind of before my time when I was actually I was born in 1983. So like, bear with me. All right. So I went with players that I've seen play. Randall L was a punt returner. He was a former quarterback. A lot of great memories happened when Antoine Randall L was on the field with the football in his hands in some way, shape, or form. I loved watching him play. I loved when he would get the football and run like 40 yards to gain 2. Like that's a Randall L play. I still call a Randall L return. For Juju, his first 2 seasons were so awesome in the league. I mean, you could go for the 95-yard touchdown passes when Juju, his bike got stolen. You talk about when he knocked Vontaze Burfict into another century. It was incredible what Juju Smith-Schuster did. And you can say it's because of Antonio Brown, and you're right. But still, that guy was beloved in this city, and I loved watching him play football. 3, Santonio Holmes, big game player, big time plays in those moments, whether you're talking about the catch at M&T Bank Stadium, which won them the football game, a punt returns at times. People forget that he was a punt returner. Some really big catches, none larger than Super Bowl 43, and he was the MVP. I go to Antonio Brown. Everyone always wants to think about Antonio Brown and everything that went wrong at the end of his career, but they often forget how awesome and special he was. I think that in his prime, and he was one of the best receivers in NFL history. He doesn't have the longevity of a Jerry Rice, but he was as productive and as dynamic as they come for a guy that was a 6th-round draft pick. How can you not love his work ethic? I mean, the guy was the best until he went insane. And then Hines Ward. How can you not have Hines Ward and not number 1? Not only does he lead the team in receptions, I believe, all time, he deserves to be in the freaking Hall of Fame. He has rules named after him. He did everything that you would want, and he came in from college being a running back / quarterback, for crying out loud. Hines Ward, number 1 on the list. That's my list. There you go.
All right, that is absolutely a fantastic list. I love the explanations, and of course, this is favorites, so you have to list the guys that you saw. So that's a great way to go, Jeff. I love that. I really love that list. It's a lot different than mine, but that's okay. I'm a lot older than both of you. In fact, I'm not that much younger than the two of you combined. So, Dave,
No, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. So, Dave, let's go with you next and see how your list compares to Jeff's.
Oh, there's some similarities and there's definitely some differences. I'm a little bit older than Jeff, so I will go ahead and say that my list started off at number 5 as Louis Lips. Number 4, I went way out of the box here. That this one's probably not going to be on your guys' list because technically he didn't have a WR next to his name. But I'm going with Cordell Stewart when he was playing wide receiver. And I'll get to that soon. Number 3, I had Juju Smith-Schuster. Number 2, Antonio Brown. And number 1, Hines Ward. So I went with Louis Lips because he is the wide receiver of my youth. He was the wide receiver when I first started seeing the Pittsburgh Steelers and even understood what was going on at all. That was when I played for my youth league football team that was the Steelers. I was number 83. So even though I was a lineman, because they didn't make you do the actual numbers of line versus stuff when you were that age. So that's why I went there, just because of the nostalgia of it. Then I went, I still think that people really have a point where they say if Cordell Stewart would have stuck to be a wide receiver, he could have ended up in the Hall of Fame. It was so exciting to see the Steelers offense anytime he was out there wide receiver, because you never knew, is he going to go out for a pass? Is he going to throw it? And honestly, this is where I might have substituted in an Antoine Randall when it's placed, but I just thought it was fun to talk about Cordell Stewart as well. Randall was my first guy out, in case you guys were wondering. And then Juju, he was just fun. And this is more recently when, since I was covering the Steelers, that during his whole career here with Steel Curtain Network, and previously behind the Steel Curtain, that it was just fun to cover him. And he was electric during that time. And then Antonio Brown, honestly, if he didn't go bat crap crazy, he would have had a real chance to be number 1. I mean, he really did, just because he was that good. He really was. But you have to take the good with the bad in that case, and that's what knocked him down to number 2, because it then really wasn't close. Jeff is exactly right. Hines Ward, he's the guy. He's the favorite. He did the right things. He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. Back to you, Bad.
All right. First time that I've heard anybody say bat crap crazy on a Steel Curtain Network show. I absolutely love it. Now my list is going to be completely different, and I'm almost thinking that it's not going to be fair to some of these players unless we invite Kevin Smith on the show to help balance things out. This might have to be a 4-pack, but here is my list, and it mirrors one of Dave's. Number 5 is Louis Lips. Number 4 is Lynn Swann. And number 3, Yancey Thigpen. Number 2, we're going 82 once again, John Stallworth. And number 1, it's unanimous, folks, and I knew this was going to happen. It's got to be Hines Ward. Now, why did I do this? Now, I was in 7th grade when the Steelers drafted Louis Lips, and that rookie year was absolutely phenomenal. He was a punt returner just like Antonio Brown was, just like Antoine Randall was, but he was doing things. He was tall at that time in 1984, 40 years ago, for a player and for a receiver, and he was just electric fast. Jeff, if you would have been able to see him more in his prime, he would probably be one of your favorites. Lou was the reason that you got Lou. They did it for number 83. But everybody, like my grandfather was like, why are they booing this rookie? Why are they doing this? I'm like, they're saying Lou, Nana. They're saying Lou. Number 4, Lynn Swann is one of the guys that changed the game for the Steelers. He was acrobatic. I just watched Super Bowl 10 over and over. Not only were those catches acrobatic, it was like he was walking a tightrope. Lynn Swann brought the passing game into the Steelers offense, and he was also the guy that Bradshaw relied on early on. Now I'm going to go to number 3. I saw Yancey Thigpen's debut. I was actually on the sideline for a Fox affiliate, in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. They let me go on the sideline. Funny thing here, you heard me talk about the time Dwight Stone almost ran me over. But I saw his first game and I saw his first touchdown catch as well. Yancey Thigpen, he was doing stuff in the 90s for the Steelers. He was the reason that they were going to AFC championship games in 94, 95, and 97. And I just loved everything about him. Number 2 was a guy that I go back to 1984 as well. When Louis Lips was a rookie, they had Lips with John Stallworth. Now, we know everything John Stallworth did in the 1970s, but that comeback season in 1984, after being gone all of 1983, was something phenomenal. He was a all-pro player once again. He is one of the reasons that they were in the AFC championship game that year with a 9-7 team, and he was just so phenomenal to watch. But one of the reasons that I also fell in love with John Stallworth was Terry Bradshaw would say at the beginning, my guy was Lynn Swann, but the guy I connected with at the very end was John Stallworth. And in the late 70s and in the 80s, he was the guy that I knew I had the connection with. So let's talk about that connection. December 5th, 1982. It was the strike season. Young Bryan Davis went to his first game. His birthday was 2 days before. His dad told him you were going to your first Steeler game for your 11th birthday. And we went, and Terry Bradshaw to John Stallworth, 75-yard touchdown. It was just something that I would never forget. That was my first experience ever at Three River Stadium or watching the black and gold whatsoever. And number 1, how could you not say Hines Ward? So Hines Ward is my number 1 here. He did everything that made you smile, and he smiled after it. He made women love the Steelers too that didn't follow football, because they're like, he's smiling all the time. He's cracking people and he's smiling. And he was a defensive player on offense. He was just something special, and he got under people's skin. They changed rules about him, like you guys said. They put a bounty on him. And guess what? They got Rashard Mendenhall, Ray Lewis, T. Sizzle, Terrell Suggs. They could not get Hines Ward. They never, ever did. He is my number 1. Jeff, you're damn right. He belongs in the Hall of Fame, and he is going to the Hall of Fame. That is my top 5.
All right.
All right, so it's time for us to take a break. We are going to come back and deliberate right after this. So stay with us here on the Steel Curtain Network. It's the SCN Steelers Favorites. Welcome back to the Steel Curtain Network. It's the Steelers Favorites. I am Bryan Anthony Davis. I am with Dave Schofield and Jeff Hartman. We are talking about our favorite wide receivers in Steeler history. Now, we want to preface this. This is not a best of list. This is who we've seen, and so it's going to differ. You might wonder why John Stallworth and Lynn Swann aren't on some of these lists. Well, it's because they didn't get to experience them like I did. So we're going to go ahead and deliberate now and make the top 5 list based on points. So Dave, I know you compiled that. If you want to go ahead and give us what we think is the top 5.
Do you have any guess as to who would be number 1? Jeff.
It's Hines Ward.
It's Hines Ward, of course.
That's going to shorten the show. Yeah.
Number 1. This was, I mean, we all knew this. So that, honestly, that doesn't surprise me one bit. But he's the only name that ended up on all 3 lists. That's the only name. But he was number 1 on all 3 lists. So he was number 1 by a mile. All right, believe it or not, the next one, sorry, bad, you didn't have him, but that would be one Antonio Brown. That he was the next in point wise when it comes to the top 5. After that, it was tell me if I missed one in here anywhere bad from where I compiled this. The next one was Juju Smith-Schuster. He would be number 3. Then with John Stallworth being number 4. And number 5 is a tie. So I think we need to deliberate this or see if we need to move anything around at all, because we had Santonio Holmes and Yancey Thigpen both tied for number 5. Then it was followed by a tie between Louis Lips, Lynn Swann, and Cordell Stewart. And then you had Antoine Randall coming in after that, who I almost had on my list, as I said. So I don't think there's much debate over the top two.
No, there's not. And even though I did not have Antonio Brown on my list, and I had left him off the list because if this was a best of list, he's my number 2. Hines Ward is still my number 1 in a best of list. But I thought he divided the team more than he helped the team. No Super Bowls, so he wasn't my favorite. And the way he went out, I'm still very bitter over. So he's not one of my favorites, but if it's best of, he belongs up there. I have no problem with putting him on number 2 of this favorite list because you both did.
Yeah, and Jeff and I both also had Juju. Jeff, do you think number 3? Do you think Juju Smith-Schuster makes the best case there?
That's tough. I mean, because when you talk about guys that spend a lot longer in Pittsburgh, if you look at the whole body of work, there are people that are probably more deserving to be at the 3rd. Is that what you said, 3rd, right?
Yeah, that he was 3rd, which was interesting, mainly because he was 3rd on my list and 4th on yours.
Right.
So that's just because out of these, we did a top 5. We had 10 different names. We had 10 different names between the 3 of us.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about like Santonio Holmes versus Yancey Thigpen. Like, is that really a discussion?
I don't think so either. I think it's Antonio Holmes.
Yeah. I mean, the dude was an MVP, but he won him a Super Bowl. I mean, he won him a Super Bowl, and you talk about the big plays that he made and big moments. I love Yancey Thigpen, but he can't say that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. I have no problem with that. I love all these guys.
And honestly, having Stallworth in there, I'm fine with that. But
you got to have
like
one of them
Jeff,
in there.
Just like with Jeff, it's not someone that I saw. And now Stallworth, he played. Now it's not that I didn't see him. It's just I didn't see him much because he didn't retire until when did he retire, Brian?
87.
87. So I would have been seeing him in there some, but not. That wasn't the height of the Stallworth era. I will say it that way. But during that time, I was more about Louis Lips. So I have no problem with Stallworth. This is generational. This is when it comes down to these things. So
that's why I might have to be calling a tag team partner. KT, you're on the clock, baby.
Yeah, because I mean, and I would have, if I was including players that I didn't actually see, I mean, Stallworth would have been in there, probably even ahead of Juju. And then, Lynn Swann would have been in there. Like I would have had Lynn Swann ahead of Yancey Thigpen personally. If you gave me Brian's list, I would have, where I had to go with those 5 names. I would have switched. Honestly, I would have put Thigpen 5. He was exciting, but I remember him more in a different uniform.
Well, if I were to have Swann and Stallworth on my list, I'm looking at my list. They would have bumped Juju and Randall off.
Yeah,
I don't think I put them. Maybe Stallworth would have replaced Santonio Holmes, but Swann didn't play very long.
Yeah, he didn't.
And he did have great accolades. I might put Santonio Holmes 5 and then have Hines Ward 1, AB 2, Stallworth 3, Swann 4, Santonio 5. That's probably what my list would look like if I had Swann and Stallworth on there.
Yeah.
So you would have Swann over Stallworth?
No, other way around. Stallworth over Swann.
Yeah.
So I would have
Stallworth 3, Swann 4, Santonio 5. I still want Santonio on that list. The guy made some big plays outside of Super Bowl 43 too.
So should we book that list, guys?
Well, I don't know that we have that. You mean the one Jeff just said?
Yeah.
This is, if I were to say, if I really wanted to compile it based on the players that we brought up, I would say I would go Ward, Brown, Stallworth, Holmes, Juju.
Juju over Lynn Swann? Juju didn't play here long.
I know, but for the young fans out there, he was one that they really adored.
I get it.
But you don't have Juju. You don't have anything if you don't have Lynn Swann.
Yeah.
I mean, Lynn Swann won Super Bowls.
I know. I'm just
He was
saying.
an MVP as
He's still
well.
the number. I
And-
mean, Juju
you know what? He
scored more than twice as much as Lynn Swann with our scoring system.
He played
But
longer than you would think.
Yeah.
74 to 82.
Maybe we needed to say like all-time lists
Yeah.
and not by like ranking them. I don't know.
Well, yeah, just no, but I like this because we get Brian's perspective, bringing it in here with someone who saw those players play. Because
Let's
I'm
bring Kevin on
thinking
next
of like
time.
what Big Bros list would
I
be.
think so.
So. What'd you say?
We'll bring Kevin on next time. Well, the
Yeah,
battle
yeah,
of the
big-
generations.
Yeah.
It'll be a debate.
Generation X versus Generation Y.
Yeah.
So
So
is that what you guys are? Why?
I have no idea.
Uh,
I'm actually
Well,
one of the old. I'm actually one of the oldest millennials. Actually,
I'm X.
okay, so I'm X and X
Yep.
versus Millennial.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen. I think
So-
we have a list. Dave, do you want to go ahead and give us that list one more time?
So Hines Ward 1, Antonio Brown 2, John Stallworth 3,
Yep.
Santonio Holmes 4, Lynn Swann 5.
I can agree. I can live with that.
I can live with that too. And I tell you what, we learned a lot about ourselves and this show and our fandom. And one thing that we all agree on is the fact that we love our Steelers and our memories have so much to do with our fandom. And thank goodness we're Steeler fans. I don't think I'd want to be a fan of any other team. And I think, gentlemen, we're unanimous on that, just like we were Hines Ward. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
That's right.
All right, for Jeff Hartman, for Dave Schofield, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. This has been the inaugural favorite Steeler list from the Steel Curtain Network. Thank you so much. Make sure you stick with the Steel Curtain Network for all of your Pittsburgh Steeler needs, because there's so much that's going to be happening coming soon. But until then, cherish those memories and go Steelers.